Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soulshine Radio. I have a very special guest here today. Her name is Petia. Do you want to say hello briefly to our audience?
Hi, I am so blessed to be here. What an honor. And I just can't wait to see and feel what we are going to co-create on this episode.
I know when you and I were connecting, well, what's really fun about this is I want to say you might be one of my first guests that I don't personally know or haven't had like a collaboration or an event together. And it just kind of, your team reached out and it just felt aligned. And actually, we had the holidays. There's lots of exciting things happening in both of our lives. And so it took several months for us to kind of make this happen. And of course, we know that this is all on purpose. And there's a reason why it needed to happen in this moment at this time, because I know, oh my goodness, it's been, what are we in? We're at the beginning of February, and I already feel like time is bonkers more than ever. It's moving so fast, but also feels so slow at the same time. And so much momentum is now happening where I feel like a lot for me was still creating a lot more spaciousness to be able to fill in that spaciousness with what gets to come through during this time. So it feels like we're finally starting to get back more into the collective forward motion energy, which is so fun. But of course, as we know, it can't always be that way. So, well, let's just start with, who are you? Let our audience know a little bit more about you and what you do and how you got into this line of work, and then we'll see where the conversation takes us.
Such an amazing question. And I feel like it's kind of tricky question, like, who are you, right? Like, I don't like labeling and I don't like putting myself in a box because it's so funny, Lindsay. I feel like if you ask me today, my answer will be maybe different than tomorrow. It depends of how am I feeling, what's coming through, what I'm, working on, what am I creating. So I feel like it can be always changing depending on how we're feeling, where we are in our life. And I would say, like, right now, what really resonates, it's me seeing myself as an activator, because on my journey, I saw that so many people coming into my life felt really activated in the possibilities, in the abundance, in their own light, really owning their gifts. And it was not something specific that I did. And of course, like, we get certification, learn modalities, are excited to use it with people and our clients. I feel more so it was who I was being on my journey, and people could feel it, because I feel like no matter what we say and what we do, people can just feel it. I used to own, 6 years ago when I started as entrepreneur, I would call it by accident if I would believe in accidents. But my first company was social media marketing agency. So I was helping entrepreneurs to be seen and heard and attract their clients and things like that. And I started to feel soon in my journey there that it was just a very small part of it. It was just a stepping stone. And so I really allowed myself to follow the curiosity that I had on my journey. And it's something that I had to learn and allow myself, because that's not how I was growing up. I grew up in very small country in Czech Republic, in small town. Hence, that's my unpronounceable name and accent from, because people are always wondering. They're like trying to, I talk, or they look at my name and they're like, where is she from? Like they're trying to like put me in the country. So I think it's like an amazing icebreaker, when I meet people. So making it easy for people. And I feel like where I grew up, there was a lot of scarcity. And I don't mean like a poverty, like Czech Republic, it's beautiful. We have a good economy. It's not like third world country. However, there was a lot of scarcity of like love and just like feeling not enough and not worthy and unlovable. And all these stories, I kept repeating them in everything that I was creating in my life for almost 3 decades. So I feel like it really helped me to experience the contrast and realize that we're meant for so much more. And it's so inspiring for me to see that now, especially after what was happening the past couple of years, right, in the world. so many people are awakening to that truth too. They realize like, hey, I know I'm meant for more. I know that this is not it to life. And so many people are just rising up into the occasion. And I learned that when we allow ourselves to like receive and embody our gifts versus just work hard, just strategies, that's who I used to be when I started my business. Strategies, worksheets, all these things. And then I was physically sick all the time because I burned out, because there was no harmony in my energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn to balance my feminine energy, invite her in, embrace her in. And it was a beautiful experience. And I feel like so many of us, especially women, we are hustling, working hard, trying to like do it all because we're like, I'm a superwoman, I can do it all, right? And then we burn out and we feel unfulfilled, and we take it personally, we think something is wrong with us.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean, for those of you that are tuning in and you know my story, it's very similar. And this is why I love asking this question, because, and I'm actually, as of late, I've been talking about this a lot on my podcast. I've been very curious about any sort of creative artist, paradigm shifter, mystic, revolutionary leader in history and the life that they went through and what they had to endure, and right, like the contrast that you talk about, right? So it's like you very well could have been a victim of your circumstances, right? And I believe, and I feel that you believe this too, that we choose where we live. We choose the families that we're born into. We for our evolution. And right. And so, right, to be in that and to see, you wouldn't know what it's like to be in this resonance if you didn't see the way that people were living, if you didn't see and feel the way that people were carrying themselves and in fear and overworking and suffering and not intimate and hiding. And I love this story because it shows us that we all are so individuated. You and I barely know anything about each other's lives, right? We have an energetic connection and recognize that our work is very similar, yet completely different backgrounds, completely different life circumstances, yet coming back to the same place, which is, yes, as an activator, we are showing you how to activate your truth, your power, your light from within through us being ourselves and showing you what's possible. So, yes, I'm so excited. Is there anything else you want to add to that before we move through?
No, I feel complete with that.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, we talked a bit about soulful success. So, a lot of your work is obviously centered around the self-worth conversation, around the abundance story. And abundance can mean money, but as you mentioned, there abundance of love, abundance of relationship. It can be formless, it can have form, it can be material, it can be, a resonance within. But I would love to know, let me just ask you your definition of success without the soulful first.
It's interesting because I feel like, success like without soul is no success at all. That's what I keep saying, because
Yes.
I feel like if we look at it in a traditional way, success, it's just achievement, right? Like I achieved something, I planned for something, I achieve it, I'm successful. But what I find out through my journey, it's like I set the goals, I got it, I did it, and then I felt empty. I felt like, is this it? And it's so very interesting because I kind of knew, even as I was like a little girl and growing up, that if I really, really, really want something, like I can do it. Like I wanted to get to a school, and it was like very, like back in Czech Republic, it was a school of economy, and it was prestigious school that they were not taking many people, and I got in. And then I wanted to travel. I moved to London. I moved to Spain. I went and did school in the United States, got my bachelor's, got my master's degree, did corporate job. Like I was, greatly paid there. I wanted to get married, got married. And all these things that on the outside were like, I want it, I got it. And then it's like that feeling of like, Why am I not feeling different? Why my life it's not different? So it's like I was doing all the right things and I didn't feel right. So success,
Mm.
it's really nothing if there is not soul and if you're not doing it soulfully.
Yes. Yeah, and I believe that's the reversal that we're seeing on the planet. I mean, we're seeing it again, why I'm so obsessed with learning about people that are more in the public eye, celebrities, right? Why we see people choose to end their life, why we see people still struggling with depression. We're seeing more and more celebrities come out with this, right? Because they think, "Oh, I've got the fame, I've got the money, I've got, the beautiful family, I've got the house, I can go anywhere in the world," right? But it's that same premise of looking outside of self to feel whole, right? It's got to come from within, which
Mhm.
of course is attached to that self-worth conversation. So what is your definition of soulful success?
So it's when we said like, like success is just achieving things, like checking off your list and really not feeling fulfilled. Soulful success, it's when you really tap into who you really are, your intuition, when you heal the wounds, when you heal the past, when you heal the generational like traumas, and when you can look and be fully unapologetically yourself, expressing your gift and being abundantly paid. That's what I feel like it's really true soulful success, when we can live from a place of knowing, from a place of alignment, and from place of like, there is this sense of, I know why I'm here and I know what I'm doing makes a difference. So it's not just checking off your list. Like every day, you know that how you are showing up, it's making a difference.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. And it's so fascinating because this is about doing the work. We will never feel whole, prosperous, successful, unconditional love if we don't look at the places that caused us to feel unworthy or shame or heartbreak or loss or whatever it is. So I'm very curious to know, because I now, as we continue to evolve, we start to have a greater understanding of the events of our lives and what we co-create, and major events are more of the monotonous day-to-day self-sabotage, inner critic conversations that start to make up, right, our journey, our soul journey in human form. So I'm very curious to know if there was, what was maybe one of the first events where you felt that you were in an initiatory time of, okay, this isn't working, or if it was more just like a slow build, like a slow drip of just
Mhm.
feeling your life force being sucked from you.
It's very interesting. I feel like there were some like bigger alive events, but mainly it was just like little by little, it was really progressive and getting to the point like something really has to change. Like when I was 18, I attempted to suicide, so I got to the point of like, if this is life, like if this is why we came here, I don't want to live it. So that was 18, and then a decade later I got into another like breaking. I feel like it's always like a decades, because now it's like literally a decade later, and last year was the hardest year of my life,
Mm.
so it's very interesting, and this is just me like realizing it now when I'm putting it on the timeline. I was around, so 18, attempt of suicide, 28, getting into a very dark place because, I was battling with eating disorder for almost 2 decades. And I was in a place that I was feeling like so physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. I was literally sobbing on my knees, crying and say like something has to change. And that's when I found Louise Hay and
Mm.
Dr. Joe Dispenza. And that's what really brought me hope and that spark of life that I needed back then. Now I am 38, like this past year, which is another decade. And, I went through like moving a country, experiencing miscarriage with our twins that, like it was conscious conception. So that year was so challenging for me. And I feel like it really helped me to trust myself deeper, trust my body more, really seeing like how incredibly, literally incredibly supportive my husband is. Like it's it's nice when you have a beautiful relationship, when everything is good, But when you're literally going through hell and you have someone there 24/7, it's so life-giving. So it really helped me understand like what kind of relationship, friendships, and team I built. Like my team was there with me, not like my husband 24/7, but like, you know, every day throughout this journey, like loving me, nurturing me, doing the work for me, you know, so we can at least maintain, you know, if not grow. So I feel like these are such a huge initiations because they always like, they show you the darkness, they show you the shadows. You are like literally have to embrace it. Like there is no way out, like you're in the thick of it. And something even more powerful will come out of that. Like after what I experienced last year, I'm like, I want to do my relationships differently, not like my closest one, but like outside in the world. And I want to do my business differently because up until that moment, I was doing only 101, which I love so deeply. I will keep that, and retreats and in-person events. And now I'm like, okay, like having a family and like wanting to like take care of me and my body. I get to create spaciousness. I get to bring in more people and trust. So we are creating mastermind that we are launching this March, you know, richly rewarded. So we can alchemize every experience because like we started, you know, with today's show, it's like, yeah, I could feel like a victim and pour me and trust me. Like I had a period when I was like screaming, yelling, crying. And my husband, when he told me talk to God, I was like, no, I'm pissed at him. So it was just like, you know, I went through all of my feelings and I was able to alchemize it and ask myself, how can I make my life and the world better because I went through this?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, everything that you share resonates. And again, completely different life experience. But this is the ticket. And, you know, you and I talked before this that we're both an open book, and there's a level of leadership that begins to come through and service that then begins to generate that life force. So you know, people always ask all the time, like, how do you have all this energy and how are you able to show up? And it's like, because sometimes I am screaming at God, right? Like, this is it. Being victim is an energy that then you feel it so that you can continue to move through all of the emotions. And so I get angry and I cuss at my divine support team. Not that, I mean, not on the regular, but it happens like when I'm in those moments because that is part of it. And then it catalyzes you and propels you into something better. What's interesting is I know that Richard Rudd talks about this in the Gene Keys. We see it all the time with psychologists, how you know, we kind of move in these 7-year cycles. Again, the synchronicities here in my book that I just published at the end of 2022. As I was writing, I started to realize that every decade of my life had a major catastrophic event, near-death experience, losing a childhood best friend, chronic debilitating health issues, dark night of the soul. You know, some of my deepest, darkest moments actually were also in the last 5 years, but I believe it's because my level of consciousness is elevating. And so it's almost like what I believe is spirit, source, God, whatever we want to call this universal intelligence, as we expand our consciousness, right? We get hand delivered more to help us uncover the gifts, to help us move through that. And I believe that's what we're seeing on a collective scale. So it's not that things are worse on the planet, it's that our consciousness is elevating. And so there's more contrast, there's more being illuminated, and there's more institutions and things that are dissolving that are no longer working. And what I'm hearing from you and what my audience is most drawn to me is my ability to have this place of neutrality. The neutrality is not from a place of bypassing, it's from a place of feeling. You know, Petia expressed, I could not imagine losing 2 little babies. And I would imagine you're on the other side, but you're still grieving that. You're still integrating that. And this is what is so important that I want us to start to wrap up the conversation with is it doesn't mean that life gets any easier. It's that our relationship with life shifts and we start to slow down and create the space to ask, what is this? And to allow yourself to be in it long enough to then have an understanding on the other side instead of moving through it so fast. So I really, and the suicide, like this is where, if anything that you get out of this today is that you hear Petia sharing, some of her struggles that last year. I mean, we're still in it. I've expressed what I've been going through, but you're seeing how we're able to move through it in a more graceful way and show others. That's why it's so activating, because we're not on a pedestal. We're literally in the trenches doing the work, and that's what it takes. So is there anything that you want to add to that before we can share all the ways that people can get in touch with you and know your world a bit more?
I love what you said. And I feel like it's very important to remember. And this is a mantra that I used to say to myself, and I still remind myself of that when I'm going through something challenging or, outgrowing something, is you are perfectly made for your purpose. Remember you're perfectly made for your purpose. You stop trying to fit everywhere and change yourself, but really embrace who you are, and that helps you to go through life smoother and easier and with so much more support in your life.
Yeah, because I think about if we stayed in complacency, like if there was nothing that came here to ruffle our feathers and to shake things up, we would stay the same because we like being comfortable as a human species. It's nice to be like, huh, I got nothing to do today. This feels nice. Right. And so when we get in that space of complacency, source will deliver us something, whether again, it's that slow drip of like, this isn't you, this isn't you. And what starts to happen is you start to have faith in yourself, in the collective, in the world. It doesn't mean that we're Pollyannas and we're just closing a blind eye. We still have the same hurt and the same desires for humanity, for healing, for all beings on this planet to thrive, to love, to feel what it feels like to feel safe, And so I do feel that there's a responsibility, especially for those of us that are currently residing in the Western world. Where are you currently located, by the way?
So we lived up until a couple months ago in Mexico, Tulum, and we
Okay.
just moved back to States, to Las Vegas.
Okay. Right. So North America, South Central America, obviously there's still some, third world countries in there, but really like for me, I believe that I chose to have a resource life to do something with it, and I also believe that we reincarnate. Not everybody believes that. So I don't feel separate. I understand our individuated nature, and I understand that we have, our soul, right? Like all of the ancestry of our soul. And then we have the ancestry of this body. And so I feel a lot of times I feel the hurt that's happening. Like I talk about what's happening in Iran right now, right? What's talking with Ukraine right now. I feel that. And I also start to notice, where am I participating in the suffering on the planet? Where am I still not showing up in my leadership? Where am I still at war with myself? Where am I still acting as a dictator, right? Where am I still trying to control? Because it helps me be able to have these conversations, to keep showing up, right? To use our voice. And I think what starts to happen when we start to actually meet those parts of ourselves, and then there comes a time where we integrate it and we start to share it, it creates momentum. And then people feel it. And then it gives others permission to use their voice too, because there's a zillion ways that we can show up in leadership. It's not meant to all look the same for all of us. So I want to thank you for this beautiful conversation. It's the first of many, because I'm actually blown away in the best way of how many synchronicities in just what you shared with your life and your life experience. Do you want to share any of the exciting news outside of your business that's happening in your life right now that you're on the other side of last year?
Well, I feel like there is always a journey, on the other side, but We are pregnant again with my husband. So we're celebrating that because I feel like you said right at the beginning of our podcast, everything is happening in a divine timing. And that's what I really feel like. It's really beautiful divine timing on stepping into new possibilities and like how we are weaving our personal and business life together. So I'm very excited to see what 2023 will bring with the new motherhood, with a new little baby, and our business like growing around it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have so many colleagues and dear sisters that it's like, right. It changes your world for obvious reasons. Right. But of course, everything else in your life gets to grow around it, with it, through it. So I am celebrating you. And again, thank you for sharing your journey publicly. I know that you had some podcast episodes about your miscarriage journey. And again, just showing you it's possible when you surrender, when you trust.
Hmm.
And have you ever read Spirit Babies?
Of course, 3 times.
Yeah, I read it all the time. And so I've also shared, I've started my conscious conception journey, but really it's actually I'm starting with myself. I thought I was like ready to really go in there and be like, all right, I'm ready. But I realized there was a lot more with my body temple that I really got to uncover, especially in terms of the self-worth conversation, especially around my relationship with work. A lot of my journey also has been, right, like where to truly be in the flow, be in the feminine, be in the heart, and then let the masculine, the mind, the support serve me, serve my essence. And it feels like, well, first I'm like, I might be coming to ask you questions. But for those of you who have struggled with miscarriage, there's even a chapter on abortion in there. I mean, there's all of these beautiful practices to start to connect with your spirit babies, which I know you and I didn't even get to, but we are so connected that I'm sure you even connect to your twins still, right? And how we start to recognize that we can communicate on the other side. We can communicate in any moment, really, to our guides, to our angels, to our galactic family, to any beings who have crossed over. And so I love that you're able to now share the continuation of your motherhood journey. So thank you. All right. So where can people find you? And obviously you have this beautiful mastermind starting. We'll make sure we put more information for that in the notes below. And if there's anything else you want to close with.
My favorite place to connect, it's Instagram. That's where we connected. I feel like that's, where I share a lot of my wisdom and a lot of my journey. And you can find all the information on my website, petiakolibova.com too, for my mastermind. We are now taking applications, and that's petiakolibova.com/applications, because we are keeping this mastermind really intimate. It's called Richly Rewarded, and it's going to be 9 months journey into really creating a business that is soulful, fulfilling, and creating the impact with more ease. So there's a lot of hands-on support. And I'm super excited for it because we are bringing in everything that I have used on my journey that helped me create multiple six-figure business with ease.
So just breathing that in, right? If you feel like you've just started your journey, if you feel like you are unsure of what's next for you in the business realm, in the motherhood realm, in the life realm, right? Just again, feeling what it feels like. There might be moments of like, I want that. Why can't I have that? Or why me? Beautiful. Feel that, move through it. And then let stories like Petia's, right, show you what's possible for your life, because it is possible. We are so limited with our thinking minds that truly anything is possible. So thank you. Thank you for saying yes to being with us today. I know that you are, pregnant and taking care of yourself. So I appreciate your time. I know that it is precious, and I can't wait to continue the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me and for all the work you're putting in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Much love, everyone.